what do you make of this change? The supplement's been reduced, but there's no indication by the government they're going to scrap the supplement. It seems from the Prime Minister saying there will be some support into next year as well.
Yeah, well, Kieran, we were giving clear advice to the government that we wanted to see that supplement retained at its higher level until we got a permanent adequate increase into JobSeeker. And unfortunately, we don't have either of those out of today's announcement. So, you know, over the fortnight, many people will see it's a $300 a week less in their back pockets. Many people are going to be needing every dollar that they've been getting over this last period. So we're very worried about what this will mean for people today. I've been receiving a lot of messages from people. They are very distressed about it. And of course, the great uncertainty, you know, a cut in September, query what will happen in December, no certainty delivered for people today. On Social Security, I think the government absolutely could have delivered a permanent adequate increase to JobSeeker. Gee, it's not a new issue, is it, Kieran? And we were hoping to see that and we didn't get it.
There is going to be an increase in the income-free area where those who are seeking a job can still earn. It's been increased from $106 to $300 and still get the JobKeeper on top. The JobSeeker, the old New Start, on top of that. Do you welcome that initiative?
Yeah, look, of course that will help people who are lucky enough to get a bit of paid work, and so that will help. But we have to understand we are still in the thick of this terrible health crisis. The impacts on our economy are going to be felt for a very long time. We've now got one job available for every 13 people who are trying to find it. Depending on what happens with the flattening of that JobKeeper payment, as you know, we're going to worry that there are going to be more lift in unemployment. The Reserve Bank and others are predicting that, and further into December. So we're going to see more people. I mean, the JobSeeker payment's the lifeline payment. I mean, that really is where you go when you don't have any other income. And so the base payment of JobSeeker is really the crucial safety net for people. And we are very concerned right now that we don't have what we were calling for. Of course, the government's saying that it's going to look further at the JobSeeker payment permanently. I wonder whether the government has thought this through properly. Maybe they have. But in the economy, if you look at what the government has done so far, dollar for dollar, the increase that it made to JobSeeker has been one of the most effective things happening in the economy to support jobs. Every dollar being spent, you know, on essentials in many cases, you know, on things that people haven't been able to afford for a long time. All of that economic support helps other people's jobs more than anything else, arguably, we've seen. And so I don't think the government has considered that now when people go, well, maybe I won't have this kind of level of income for beyond September, what might happen to people who are very financially distressed and worried about the long-term picture for themselves. And so we think this would have been one where you would lock in a permanent ongoing arrangement, obviously to help people's mental health and so a sense of confidence, but also for the economy.
As I said, though, the Prime Minister hinted very strongly that that supplement now reduced to $250, that would be continuing at least in some form next year. If it was to remain at this level that it's at beyond October on a permanent basis, would you be satisfied with that?
No, look, we provided clear advice to the government about what we felt was needed. Many people would be needing every dollar that they were now getting. $550 per week is not overly generous, particularly if you have got ongoing big housing costs, if you've got children, for example, if you're a single-parent household, you are spending every dollar and you really need it to cover the basics, for, you know, the housing situation, food on the table. Charitable organisations are saying they're still seeing families coming to them needing additional help on top of the doubled rate of JobSeeker. And so this is the really crucial part to get right in terms of adequacy so that people can keep their head above water for as long as they will need. We hope it's not for a very long time, but anybody who's been through a recession, and that is what we're in now, knows that job creation takes time. And of course, with the health crisis, that we can't move as quickly as we might otherwise like in terms of some of those jobs. And so navigating a lot of uncertainty, this was one area. Fixing the adequacy of social security payments for people was something that government did have control over, still has control over today. And so, yes, of course, we will again work with the government. I want to thank all of the people who've spoken up about directly affected, many people, Kieran. I'm sure you've seen them, you know, individuals, families talking about the difference that having a few extra dollars has made to them as individuals on the very lowest incomes in the country. And I want to thank them all today and assure them that we will continue to do everything we can. I mean, what more do we need to persuade the government, Kieran? Business groups, the investment community, leading economists, community sector unions, everybody is saying we need an adequate permanent increase to JobSeeker, and we have for a long time.
Indeed, and that economic argument that you make beyond the equity argument is a potent one. It's been made, as you say, by a Business Council of Australia through to the unions, yourself, the AIG, plenty of groups have said it, but the government's hasn't announced at this point. What is the key number for you? Because the government says, when we put it to them, that there are other supports. There are family payments, there's rental assistance and other social welfare that goes to people who are struggling. What is the key number for you that won't then be a disincentive to go and get a job?
Yep. Let's talk about rent assistance for just a moment. $70 per week, Kieran, and that hasn't been increased in real terms for over 25 years. Let's talk about family payments. That's the additional payment you get if you do have children in your care. Well, that's been frozen. It's been one of the big areas where governments, since the global financial crisis, have gone to cut away at the adequacy of family payments. And so we've now got 1 million children who are relying in their families on this doubling rate of JobSeeker to try and keep those families out of poverty. And we saw the research just a couple of days ago showing that if we went back to the brutal $40 a day, the huge hit we would have had to the rates of child poverty and poverty of families in Australia. So the debate about how much is a really important one. We said to the government, for many of those families, they would need every dollar and some more. At an absolute minimum, we would be wanting to see that payment increase by about $185 per week, but that doesn't factor in a lot of these additional costs. The detail is there. The government has to grapple with the reality of this. Social Security is more important than ever now. We know that it's a safety net for all of us. Many people are worried. 40% of people are worried right now about whether they'll have a job next year. And if you do lose a job, that is where you'll fall. And we just need to make sure people have enough to cover the basics.